Good afternoon. Today I was thinking about discussing a subject that I find interesting, and that is the subject of why cars do not have handlebars like bicycles. It would assume that handlebars are useful on a bicycle for turning left and right, but vehicles don't have this. Most vehicles don't. Now, the origin for this, I assume, is the fact that originally vehicles used mechanical drivetrains in order to turn left and right, and were probably very difficult to turn. You probably were not able to be strong enough to even turn something like that, something like a car, which weighs thousands of pounds. Therefore, I think that there were gear systems and gear ratios in vehicles that allowed them to turn incrementally so that it would reduce the actual load that was required when turning them. So that is the very origin, I believe, my opinion, as to why vehicles have round handlebars, steering wheels, if you will. If you look at other things today, for example, like 4x4s, I think they're called, or four-wheelers, I'm unsure of the word of these vehicles. These vehicles will all have handlebars. And the reason for that, I suppose, is because they are lighter and therefore do not require massive drivetrains to turn, and possibly now are more computerized. So they use a system of, I think it's pneumatics or other forms of assisted turning to reduce the amount of actual manpower required to turn them. So these days, I think that perhaps the reason we still maintain these is because the factories are probably set up in such a way as to produce these steering wheels instead of handlebars. Otherwise, they might produce more. There are some cars out there that I have seen. They are concept cars, but they do actually possess handlebars. Usually, they try to portray it as very real, very futuristic, or different or unique. If you, in many movies of the not too distant future where they depict flying cars, they frequently depict them with handlebars. I'm not sure if they are aware of the computerization of cars and versus the drivetrains that were used using gears. But I suspect that is why the impression of futuristic cars as having handlebars maybe somehow stems from the subconscious, is that there will not be this need for constant turning of a wheel to maneuver a vehicle, because you will have cars that can turn much more easily. But the other issue is compactness. That is also something that should be addressed. A wheel is the same size, it's just right there, and you turn it, and that offers some advantages. A handlebar, if it was sticking out, it would have to stick further out so that you could maneuver it like that. It might be a little bit more space occupying than a wheel might. This idea actually came to me because a friend was telling me of a dream in which the reins of a horse were replacing steering wheels in the future. And we were asking ourselves why we don't have handlebars anymore. But why wouldn't reins, like on a horse, be appropriate for for cars? Well, the main reason is why is because a horse is the original smart car. I've ridden horses, and I've had carriages, and I've ridden in many of these things, professionally, even in Romania. Well, professionally because it was part of my job to ride in them. not because I am some kind of expert, but if you will consider for a moment, the horses will crash. There have been instances where horses will crash. They are generally desiring to keep themselves safe. There are stories in Romania of horses taking drunk mailmen along the route and delivering mail by themselves. People know to just, oh, it's that drunk mailman again. I will go and get my mail from his cart. Because the horse is the horse just knows what it has to do. The driver doesn't even need to do anything. So a rein really is just to let the horse know this direction. You pull it this direction. No, this direction. This direction. this direct, a little this way, this way. So you're just basically nudging the horse in the right direction. It wants to go where you want it to go. It wants it wants to go, usually. Whereas a car doesn't have that. For example, if another carriage is coming or something is coming towards the horse will usually move out of the way. Even if you tell it to go towards it, it will move out of the way. It won't listen. It won't even listen to you if you and crash into something. Usually it does happen, but usually that's the case. 99% of the time, the horse's self-preservation comes in. This is not the case for a car. So I think that reins would be very compact. Reins could be very compact for a car. But the problem there is that you would have to keep them taut all the time. Could you imagine sitting in a car and keeping them taut, keeping the reins taut to your body? Or maybe you would have shorter reins, so they would be like so. But would that confer any actual advantages? Though it would be possible. You could have some kind of pulley system that when you pull the reins, it moves the gears in the car to that direction or that direction. You could use some kind of something like like the chains from a bicycle to pull some kind of reins to make it turn to the right or to the left. But the issue then would be that you would have to keep it taut. And also, the problem there would be that if they were something durable and rigid so as to reduce you having to hold it taut, then it would no longer be anymore. It would be no more compact. It would eliminate the advantage of compactness. And then also, if you had to keep it taut, then the problem with this is that you would have this moment or two of slack before turning. So when you see something happening on the street, you have to turn quickly. You'd have to maintain that slack, that slack, you'd have to pick it up before you could turn it. And that's really just not very intuitive, and it also has a fraction of a second that is actually very important in reflexive instances. So when you see something and you turn, that would not happen as quickly with reins. Whereas with a horse, this is not really a problem because the horse doesn't want to crash. The horse will not crash usually. And so this is why we don't use reins and why we don't use handlebars for cars. But we may use handlebars for cars in the future. I'm not sure of it, but we may. I could see that. I'd love to know what you think. Do you have any other reasons why we don't have handlebars or reins on cars? I'd love to hear your thoughts about these crazy ideas. Thank you and have a blessed day. Love you all.